This is NTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our February Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm Mike Frieda, North Haven's first selectman, joined by our second selectman, Mr. William Piper, and our third selectman, Mr. David Cohen. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 2, are there any comments to this evening's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 3, the approval of the minutes of the January Board of Selectmen meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from January 8th, 2026.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 4. This is an overview. There's no slides on this. I want to just take you through a couple of things that I think are very important. And I'm sure David and Bill may want to offer some perspective also. So we last year came off a reval that was a 39.5% increase in property values. Every mayor and first selectman across the state, and I know a lot of them, who went through reval all had these astronomical property values. So in our case, we dropped the mill rate about 5.2 mills, and we still had a significant tax increase. In my personal case, I ended up paying $1,777 more in taxes last year, even though we dropped the mill rate to 5.2 mills. Yesterday we were up in Hartford. I met with the governor. Today I was out with the Senate today with other mayors talking about the onerous aspect of property taxes and what can we do, how do we address this? Because all of us are going through this right now. Here's where we are right now. With all the requests that have come in from the department heads, we sit right now at a mill rate increase of 3.42 mills. And as I said to the department heads today, there's absolutely no way we could sell that to the public. Can't even present it to the public. That's the wish list. That's people that are needed in each department. That also includes non-discretionary funding, like, as an example, health insurance costs that are skyrocketing for the employees. So that's the bad news. If there's any good news, and I know David and Bill were part of the workshop session when I was here, we were here last Saturday talking about with the Board of Ed. We remarkably saw a grand list growth of 2.7%. And when I say remarkably, because coming off a 39.5% property value revaluation increase, there were appeals, people appealing their values. That comes off the grand list. So we netted out with about $3.3 million more incremental revenue from the grand list growth. So when you apply the grand list growth to the total expenditures that have been asked for by all the department heads, police, fire, public works, streets and roads, every single department, when we apply the 3.3 million against that spending, we're still at a 2.57 mill rate increase, going from 3.42 to 2.57. We can never sell that to the public. So where we're at is, I've asked the department heads to come back, redo their budgets before we go to the meeting. In my personal opinion, I'd be happy to really hear David's opinion and Bill. Coming off last year's mill rate increase, about 1.94, I don't think anything more than a third of the mill, 0.33, is what the public would accept. Because as you know, in this form of government, it's not a council form of government. where 7 people or 9 people make the decision. It's the public. I present to the public. And so to get to 0.33 requires some significant reengineering of the department heads' requests. Here we are now on February 5th. So we'll go to our first public meeting on this budget, probably somewhere around March 9th or 10th. Then, of course, we come back in April, and then there's a referendum in May. So we've got to do some retooling, I call it re-engineering, to bring this down, because I don't think that, it's not that I don't think, I know we're not going to be able to pass that budget at those mill rate potential increases. So I'm going to now stop. I know David's on the agenda. We asked him also to say a few words. But before we move to David or segue into David, any other discussion on that? That was my only item on this overview.
I mean, I think all we can do is try to come up with something that, as best we can, fund things like public safety, public works, our school system, and at the same time, not overburden our taxpayers. Based on what we had, based on, as you mentioned, Mike, with the occurrence of a reval where it shifted a lot of the burden to the residential side from the other side. So, and my increase was definitely over $1,500. So, and I have no doubt that there are people that had obviously maybe more than that. But I think it's a reflection that that we have a good community with good services, good school system, and people want to live here. And I think we were seeing that already in that when we had the Board of Education budget presentation, actually, we had a decrease in the number of students over the last decade or so. But we actually are now projecting a small increase. I think they said, 90 or so students that we're projecting over the next few years. So the younger population in town in terms of students and your families is actually growing. So I think, and that's actually a very positive sign. So I think we're going to do the best we can from all different directions, as Mike was saying, and not forget the taxpayer, but also remember that our town is based on, we're all in this together, and we need to provide services that are important, which is what attracts people to come to North Haven.
So before I turn it over to Dave, thank you, Bill. I just want to say one thing before I turn it over to David, that the total requests from all the departments for incremental funding, which includes health insurance increases, which includes things like annual required contributions on pension programs. The total request has come in at $13,609,000. It's roughly about a 10% increase. So that's right there. That is fairly significant, right? That's the 3.42 mill rate increase. I want to just summarize again. If we apply the grand list growth to 3.3 million, that brings it down to 10 million plus. That gets us down to about 2.57 mils. We've got to get this down somehow to 0.33. David, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Bill. It's. I think you always say this when we approach budget season, that it's a very difficult budget year. I think we always say that every year, and then we always say, but this year is really, really hard. But I think it's true that this year is particularly hard. We look, our most fundamental obligation to town, our most important job is to prepare a budget that makes sense for everyone in town and that provides services that work for folks in town. That's our job, right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to run a town and make sure that people get what they need, and that our schools continue to perform the services that they're asked to perform, and that the rest of our town performs the services and conducts themselves in accordance with our budget and our demands of our town, which are great. Honestly, our town is a wonderful town, but our demands are significant. What I have been struck in this process, and the reason I asked Mike just for some time today, is I think what's lost sometimes as we talk about our budget, and we talk about what a difficult year it's going to be, and we talk about what the town's appetite might be for an increase, if the town has an appetite for an increase on the heels of last year, is what is the process? what actually happens when we prepare a budget? Because I think sometimes that's a little opaque for folks. That's a little unclear. So what happens, if you'll indulge me here, guys, just a few minutes, I think it's important for folks to understand how the house gets built. So we have multiple departments in our town: Department of Public Works, Police, Fire, IT, Library Services, a host of other departments, all of which have a budget. And what they each do is they each prepare line by line, block by block, a budget for this year, or whatever year we're talking about, and they come and they present that budget after they sit together and discuss amongst themselves what they think they need that year, from personnel to equipment to IT to anything really that would go into them running whatever they need to run for our town. And then they present line by line what they need to the Board of Finance. And they have what are called workshops. And Bill and I and Michael have been at all these workshops. Michael sits on the Board of Finance, and Bill and I have sat through all these workshops for every one of these departments in town. And I'm leaving out the Board of Ed for a reason. I'll get to the Board of Ed, I promise, because the Board of Ed is a bit of a beast, and we'll get there in a minute. And they have a different process. So each time, each one of these departments comes and presents what their budget's going to be for the year. And then the Board of Finance, line by line, block by block, goes through each one of those requests, asks questions, scrutinizes different numbers, and really dives into, okay, what are they asking for? Do we need that? Is that a need? Is that a want? Is that discretionary? Is that an obligation of ours because it's contractual? Which, as Michael described, a lot of our expenditures are contractual, are obligatory. And so they go through that with each and every single department in our town. And then they aggregate all of those numbers together after each one of those workshops, and they come up with a number. And then they take that number, and then the Board of Education shows up. And they say, all right, we've already done all that work. We've had our own workshops. We've done all of our line-by-line work. We've presented to our own Board of Education what we think we need to run our schools. And this is our number. So the difference, the distinction here is that with each department in town, they build it block by block with the Board of Finance. But with the Board of Ed, it's built. They come with a full number. They come after they've already had a full, robust discussion, many workshops on their side. And then they come to the Board of Finance and say, hey, here's our number. We've already worked this through. This is the number that we believe we need in order to run our schools. And here are the things that are discretionary, which are very, very tiny. And here are the things that we have no choice but to deliver on, which includes pension obligations, healthcare obligations, salary contractual increases, which of course is true across all of our departments, not just Board of Ed. So what Michael and the Board of Finance has to do is they have to take the number that is provided by the Board of Ed and then all the numbers that they've built together on the other departments, combine the numbers together and figure out, holy smokes, what is this number, and does the town have an appetite for this kind of increase? Because of course, every year there's going to be an increase. If you think about it, everyone in our town who works for our town, be it a teacher or a nurse or someone who works for DW, there are obligatory contractual increases in all of our contracts with them, 3%, 2.5%, whatever it is. We have healthcare costs. Everybody's got their own healthcare costs that they are seeing skyrocket right now. The town has the same issue. So they all come and they present their numbers, and we look at our total number and we say, wow, that is a big number. And then we look at the people who prepare those numbers and we look at ourselves and we say, where can we cut? Where can we actually take some of this off? Where can we, is there fat here? Is there anything we can do to bring these numbers down? That is the ongoing discussion that we are having, that Michael and the Board of Finance are having with every single department. When Michael says, I have each one of our department heads to go back and see if they can cut some fat off their budgets, if there is any fat to cut, and the Board of Ed has to do the exact same thing, because ultimately what we have to do as a town is we have to build one house together, right? One house. There are some towns in this state and in other states that have a Board of Ed budget vote and a town vote. We don't have that. And I actually love that we don't have that, because it reminds us every time we go to the polls for referendum, that we're one town, and we're all in this together, and we all have to make this work together. And so what each one of these departments is doing now is going back and scrutinizing their own budgets and coming to terms with the possibility of making some very challenging cuts. And they are, of course, going to try to make those cuts, if they are going to make those cuts, in ways that aren't going to impact our lives, student services, the roads, leaf pickup, which I know if we stopped leaf pickup, there would be pitchforks at Town Hall. You better be careful about that. But these are the kinds of questions that we have to ask ourselves, and these are the kinds of issues that we are faced with yet again, right? So, Michael, you asked me, do I think that the town has an appetite for an increase this year? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think that in many ways, the answer is when we say to folks, here are the things that are going to change from this year to next year in terms of town services, we will then understand what people's appetites are, right? We will then understand if people can say, honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with giving up that particular service in order to save some dollars on my tax bill. I'm okay with that. And how do we understand if folks are okay with that? We understand by the public meetings that we have, which we will have multiple ones.
Yep.
People showing up here, people showing up at the Board of Finance, the Board of Ed, to voice their particular concerns and opinions. But ultimately, it comes down to turnout. How many people show up and vote for this thing? Last year, we had, I think, one of our largest turnouts ever,
yes,
13%, but it was only 13%.
Right.
Right? And we had one of our largest turnouts ever. Usually we get single digits. So I think the way that we can, I think, take the temperature of our residents here is, number one, make sure that folks are fully engaged in this process. You know, I've loved coming to these workshops. I have learned an immense amount. I don't think they're necessarily open to the public, but are they open to the public?
They're open to the public to listen, yes.
To listen,
To
but no speaking. So it's on our website. You can always come and listen to these workshops. They're fascinating. First of all, you get to know the folks that work in your town. And second, you get to hear that they're, what their challenges and concerns are, and you get to see the budget being built brick by brick. So that's first. Come and get engaged and see what's happening in our town. Two, come to those public meetings and make sure you show up and voice your opinion. And three, come out and vote. And then we'll actually understand what the appetite is in town. Whether or not we have an increase of 0.3, whether it's an increase of something more than that, I honestly don't know. I'm not in a position yet where I can say this is what we should do, because there's a lot of work left to do. That we still have to hear from several departments, and we have to see what folks come back with when Michael sends them back and says, go back to the drawing board. We need another shot at this. So I think that the process is really well done. I think the folks who do these things, the heads of these departments, Michael, the Board of Finance, the Board of Ed, these are committed public servants who do a great job of making sure that our town continues to be a great town. And they do this work, for the most part, for free, other than the folks who actually work for the town. But the folks who sit on these boards, they're doing that out of the kindness of their heart. And they work so hard to put a budget together that actually they believe could pass in this town. And the folks that work for this town do an incredible job at their jobs. And this brings me to my other bullet point here that I just did want to mention. And this comes back to kind of our budget and the types of costs that we do have and the kind of life that we want to live here. We just had a major snowstorm. It was a major snowstorm. I think Val told me last time we had something this big was 2013. It was before I moved here, but I was living in Queens, and I remember it was pretty big. Our Department of Public Works, our grounds crews at our schools, our sanitation department, our fire, our police, they did an incredible job of keeping this town clean. The streets swept, the trash was picked up. We had one day that sanitation took before it got back out there and got our trash. One day. And if you went around this town on Monday after the storm, we could have had school. We didn't have school, which my children were happy about, but we didn't have school, not because the roads weren't ready, but because it was, folks needed some time to breathe, and teachers had to get in from other towns, and sometimes the other towns aren't as well taken care of as our town. If you drive around this area, you will see North Haven is the envy of other towns from our Public Works Department. We really are. And our town does an incredible job of taking care of our people. And on Monday morning, people got to go to work. People who had to go to work on Monday, they got to go to work because our roads were clear. And that is a real accomplishment for the folks who work in this town. And so when we think about our budget, to come full circle here, when we think about our budget and what kind of town we want, we have to remember that every decision we make has a consequence, right? Has an impact on how our town lives and works and breathes. And so when we have a budget that asks something of us, like taking money out of our pocket and giving it to the town for the greater good, we have to ask ourselves, when there are these questions about, is it too much? And if it's too much, how do we cut costs? Well, we have to be really smart and thoughtful about the costs that we do cut and the decisions we do make, because they will have a direct impact on our lives. And that could have been Monday. If we made a decision about how we take care of DPW in last year's budget and they didn't have the right equipment to take care of our streets, well, that would have impacted everybody's life. So just remember, and I thought about this a lot on Monday, that as we're going through these workshops, that they have a direct impact on everyone's life when we make a decision about how much money and what our resources are and what we're going to spend on our town and what we're going to ask our town to come out of pocket to do for our town for the greater good, that it really is for the greater good. And these are really hard decisions, and our town does an amazing job of taking care of our residents and providing for our residents. And as Bill said a minute ago, people want to come here. They want to come live here because we have great schools, because our streets are clean, because our roads are clear on one of the biggest storms in a decade. That's why people want to live here. And that costs money. And so it's budget season, and it is a hard year. But I think that the tension that exists between making sure that folks don't come too far out of pocket, but that we have the services we need, that tension is very healthy for our town. And that healthy tension, I think that we should engage with and we should participate in, and I'm really proud of it. And I've been really enjoying what I'm seeing, and I'm excited for the next couple months. I know it's going to be hard, but let's do it.
Very well stated. David and Bill, very well stated.
And maybe to further supplement what David and Mike have said, the budget workshops are open, but no public comment. I mean, it's a chance for each of the departments, Board of Education, to present their budget. As a lot of you in the audience and who are watching us on TV know, and Mike kind of alluded to, we have a public hearing where you can get up and comment to give feedback to the Board of, Mike will present the town budget, the superintendent of schools will present the Board of Education budget to everybody in the audience, and it's held over at the auditorium at the high school. And that actually is scheduled for April 13th on a Monday. So that's the chance for everybody, after all this goes on, and then we come up with the best numbers possible to try to satisfy, on one side, what the tax rate will be, and also to provide services on the other side. There is that opportunity for everybody to get up and give their input, and that's on April 13th over at the town hall. And then there's one last chance to hear it, as I think all of you know. The annual budget town meeting is on May 11th, but that is a week, actually 8 days before the referendum on May 19th. So that's really where, after everything is said and done, and before we all vote on the budget, there is an opportunity to let the Board of Finance and the Board of Education hear everybody's input, and that begins on April 13th. And everybody and anybody who lives in town can get up, and after they see the presentation made by Mike, the budget books are available for everybody there, as well as being online, to be able to give their input on the budget. And then the Board of Finance and the Board of Education can react to all that public comment. So,
Which
so
they do.
April 13th is the Monday, April 13th at 7 p.m. Is the key date.
All right, before we move to the next item, I would not normally do this, but I know a couple of people came in a little bit after I started to speak here. So just to summarize on 3 points, all the requests that have come in from the department heads were at a 3.42 mill rate increase. After we apply the grand list growth, which was significant, we're down to a 2.57 mill rate increase. And we've got to work harder to get this down to a budget that the public would accept. So that's kind of the summarization. Thank you, David. Thank you, Bill. And we'll move on to the next item. Okay?
Yes,
All
let's
right.
do it.
All right. So, David, thank you for that. You were on item number 5. And now, let me just pull this out. On item number 6, this is an item that we're not going to address tonight, so we can move on to the next item. Item number 7, I'm going to turn it over now to David and to Bill.
Sure. Bill, would you like to start?
Please, be my guest, please.
Sure.
My eyes are a little blurred because I had a procedure done, so
Ah,
let
no-
you read the longer ones.
No problem.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Number 7, to consider and act upon a resolution to reschedule and advertise for a public hearing for possible action on the Town of North Haven, Connecticut Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Device, ATESD, Municipal Plan, prepared pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 14-307E, to be held at the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen on Thursday, March 5th, 2026, at 6:30 PM. Resolved that a public hearing for possible action on the Town of North Haven, Connecticut Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Device, ATESD, municipal plan prepared pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 14307E, shall be scheduled for and advertised to be held at the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen on Thursday, March 5th, 2026, at 6:30 PM. Please note that a copy of ATESD plan will be posted with the notice of public hearings in the town clerk's office and on the town website and on the Board of Selectmen page. I'm happy to read that. Do I need to read it?
I don't know if you have to.
Okay, if you'd like me to, I'm happy to. It's a long website, but you can find posting there.
Okay. So just to summarize, that we had a meeting back a couple of months ago on this. This is the next meeting to kind of finalize this. We are trying to move forward with these speed cameras. This is a problem all over the state of Connecticut, reckless driving, and this is what we're looking to do. And by the way, today in Hartford, meeting with all of my other mayor friends up there, a lot of people are getting involved with this and now moving forward, meaning municipalities. So, all right, that's it. So
I think it's important to just note that the ordinance did pass. We
Yes.
have the ordinance, but this is a component of the ordinance and the statute that we need to hold a public hearing. So the ordinance is
Right.
passed. This is just more of a housekeeping item.
yes, very good, Valerie.
Yeah.
As the state sometimes does, they make things more difficult than they need to be. I can't imagine any municipality, any city or town not wanting to do this.
All right, David, good job in reading that. Call for a motion.
I'll,
Okay.
second that
Motion.
resolution.
Yeah,
okay.
That,
Motion
David-
to resolve.
All right, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next.
Next item on the agenda is to consider and act upon a resolution authorizing the sale and disposal of certain fire department vehicles. Resolved that the town of North Haven authorizes the auction and disposal of the following surplus fire department vehicles. The Director of Procurement and Administration, Rich Monaco, is authorized to determine acceptable bid offers and or take said equipment to alternate auction locations. All revenue received will be returned to the town's general fund. The two items are a 2008 Ferrara aerial ladder truck 2. I'm not going to read the VIN number. And then the 205 Explorer Fire Department SUV is the second that is surplus. So I'll make a motion to regarding the sale of those two vehicles.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. In the discussion, I'd like to point out that the way this works is whatever the sale price is, it goes back into the town general fund. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
None.
Hearing, yes.
The one thing I would say, if folks are curious why we're getting rid of these trucks, truck 2 is the truck that was replaced by the new truck.
Right.
So if you drive by northeast, across from Big Y, you'll see the truck sitting out there, and it's obviously not being used. So this is the one that we replaced. Over the last several meetings, we've been discussing this, so that's truck 2.
That's very good. Yes, David's absolutely right. Okay, we have the motion, second. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next.
Resignations and appointments. So we have 2, 1 reappointment and 1 appointment. Tonight, we're reappointment of Elio Floriano, 7 Lucy Court, North Haven, Connecticut, 6473, as the building official, retroactive to December 31st, 2022, for a 4-year term to expire December 31, 2026. And appointment of Jacqueline Ford, 570 Skiff Street, to the Board of Ethics for a 3-year term to expire 12/31/28.
Okay.
Should
I-
vote on those separately, please.
Sure.
Probably should do them separately, but okay. I'll second the reappointment of Elio regarding his position as the building official, retroactive December 31st, 2022.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? A second. Just procedurally, just to let you know, Elio is a town employee of ours, but this is a procedure that he has to be appointed as a building official. He's a certified building official. He's been with us, I think, about 20 years, and he's outstanding at what he does. So that's the motion, the second, the discussion. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Jacqueline?
To actually separate it out, I'll make a motion for the appointment of Jacqueline Ford, 570 Skiff Street, to the Board of Ethics for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2028.
My second.
All right. In the discussion, you'll see David and Bill, I'm sure you read it, this wonderful biography of Jackie.
Yeah.
And so this fills out, because we were 1 short on the Board of Ethics. And that's where we are. So we have a motion, and there's a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, can we do this all in one lump sum?
Together.
Terrific.
And we can do we don't have to read the.
Great. That would have been terrible for all you people. Property tax refunds. So we have a number of property tax refunds here. We do this at every meeting, of course. Bill, you always do this, and I always love that you do this. I do not see any particular refund that is of any material amount. So I'll make a motion to accept these refunds.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will, and I think as we've discussed before, there's nobody on the list here that we would have a conflict with, and many of them, I think, relate to property taxes for automobiles. So I
Yeah.
will, that's why they're relatively minor amounts. They don't do, they're not refunds for property taxes. But I'll make a motion to accept these I'll second that, David's motion to approve these property tax refunds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item number 13. The next regular meeting of this Board of Selectmen is Thursday, March 5th, here in the library community room. We are anticipating being back in Town Hall, probably sometime in late April or early May. But at least for now, for March, and I think at least for April, we'll be here at the community room. For those that don't know, Town Hall is being renovated up on the top floor and the bottom floor, and that's why we're here. We plan to go back to Town Hall once that renovation is done. So, with that being said, we're at the point of public comment, item number 14. Any public comments? Mary White.
Mary White, Summer Lane. I have a question, a statement, and some information that can impact us all. So the question. So last month, Mike, you had agreed to ask a question or bring up the topic at the monthly meeting with the superintendent of schools and the facilities manager. To have the consultants provide the renovation reports on all 4 elementary schools now, since they are required by the state of Connecticut during the grant application process to do it then anyway. And that would be after a positive budget referendum. And so the question is, how did that go?
Based on some of the feedback with the public, I don't want to say we're at a standstill now on this project, but I think there's more public meetings that have to take place to vet out with what the public really thinks about a $216 million project. So I don't have any other information other than the fact that I think from this point forward, Mary, there might be another, the next Board of the Board of Education meeting, there might be an update on the 12th, February 12th. But beyond that, I don't have any other information, other than the fact that there's a pause right now on this.
Pause.
That's not to say it's not going to happen, but people are offering their opinion on that type of an expenditure right now.
Okay, all right. So are you implying that, when we go to the next Board of Education meeting, that perhaps this question or this request that many of us are looking for as far as the renovation, studies, reports on the 4 schools, that could be answered right then?
It might be,
It
yes,
might be,
it might
okay.
be. And I just want to share this, and this happened, I'm only saying this because I went through this at the state level today. All the leaders of the legislative bodies, all of them will say the same thing. The mayors and first selectmen and state senators and state reps do not have the decision-making on a lot of this. So a lot of times I get requested to get involved with Board of Ed issues, but by statute, I really shouldn't. But because I have a great relationship with the school systems and the superintendent, we work very well together. They usually are very obliging in terms of providing information for me. But the reality is it doesn't happen in a lot of cities and towns. In many cities and towns, the superintendent and the mayor, they don't even talk to each other.
Oh dear.
There's no conversations at all. We're meeting with Patrick on a regular basis, at least twice a month. Talk to Patrick on a regular basis. We talk to the business manager, Christian Strickland, on a regular basis. I think if you talk to the Board of Ed, you'd say that this administration has been great to work with in trying to help them in collaborating. But certain things that I can't demand.
Right,
So.
okay.
Can I, one thing to piggyback on Michael here, to your, what you're asking is really important, but one of the things that we cannot control, right? These are things at the municipal level that we cannot control. And one of the biggest drivers, 2 of the biggest drivers in the Board of Ed budget, and this is something that you deal with a lot. 2 things. One is called excess cost sharing, which is simply the amount of money if we send a special education student that we can't take care of in-house and we have to send them out of house. That's how much it costs us to send that child out to another district for education. And at some point, the state steps in and helps us cover and reimburse some of those costs. But those levels are set, those thresholds are set by the state. So that's number one, and that's a significant cost driver for Board of Ed. Number 2 is the actual cost sharing amount that every student in this municipality gets from the state. And because we are considered more of an affluent community, we have a very low percentage that we are getting from the state. So places, other urban centers get a lot more from the state, where our municipality gets a very small amount from the state. So most of our dollars in this town, but I think it's 87 or 87% or so. Let me say it differently. Our property tax dollars have to account for 87% of the a child's education, right? We get very little from the state in terms of how much the state delivers to each one of our kids. It costs about $20,000 per pupil in our state, in our municipality, and we get about $1,300, I think, from the state for a child. So all the other dollars have to come from our pocket. So these are the 2 things. So we're constantly looking to the state to say, hey, you got to help us here. Like, we are spending far too much money to educate our kids. We need some help. And we're spending too much money sending our kids out of district. If we can't take care of them here, we need some more additional help on reimbursement. And so Michael's constantly dealing with these issues up at the state level, but we don't have control over these numbers. And they are massive drivers of our Board of Ed budget. So we as a municipality have to cover a huge amount in our Board of Ed budget. that in some other cities and towns, the state helps out quite a bit more. So these are the things, Mary, that are just not in our power, but that are huge drivers of costs for us. And so some of the renovation issues that you're talking about, it's the same kind of thing. We just can't control over these things. But we're constantly, we're hitting these notes as much as possible with the state. I know you are up there constantly dealing with this.
So I met today with the leaders, as I said, and one school in Stamford, $400 million. And what was said today with the financial people from the state to me, that the costs are out of control on the school construction. So this is something the state is looking at, how to control those costs. So a lot of times I get questions about something like this, but I don't have any say over this. I try to get information as best I can, but it's a very difficult dilemma right now.
And the state, of course, is under tremendous pressure because their budget is strained as well. I mean, we all, it's a very challenging year. No, we say that every year, but it is, it's particularly hard. It's a hard bunch of circumstances that have come together.
We're sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, that's okay.
And the other thing, though, is when you combine the town and the Board of Education budget, I think as many of you know, we actually have to fund, the town has to fund, we as residents have to fund 94% of our budget. That's how little, when you combine both budgets,
Yes.
that we actually get from the state.
Yes.
Because on the town side, we have payments and a payment in lieu of taxes for some not-for-profits like church in Quinnipiac and stuff like that, churches in Quinnipiac, but that's a very small reimbursement. And, so we're very much dependent on funding ourselves because the town is responsible for funding pretty much everything when you put it together, and the state gives us very little in terms of their, in terms of the revenue they collect from us in terms of income tax and sales tax. So.
Gary?
Okay. So this is kind of related to the question. So members of boards and commissions have stated, I've asked them, have stated that the public's health and safety is the priority. Yet we cannot get the needed 8 new firefighters added to the budget, even adding 2 per year at $250,000 for 4 years. We, however, may be asked later this year to approve this $216 million bonding for 4 new elementary schools. And the consultant stated that equated to $14 million annual bond payment. And the Board of Finance chairman stated that, when asked, that would equate 3.5 mils, and that's without considering the budget at all. So that's my statement. Still advocating for public safety. Let's see. So last month, so here comes the information that could benefit us all. So last month I spoke about medical freedom relative to the extraordinary announcement of the new CDC childhood immunization schedule. So tonight I would like to speak a little bit about food freedom relative to the extraordinary announcement in January, and that is the new food pyramid. So I obtained the information that I'm going to give you by going to hhs.gov, which is Health and Human Services, and from there, realfood.gov. So the theme of the new food pyramid is Eat Real Food, with emphasis on protein and vegetables. And so here is what the new food pyramid looks like. So it kind of looks like it's an opposite triangle there. Show everybody in case you all didn't see it. So that's what it looks like. Okay. So here are some specific guidelines. They include prioritizing protein at every meal, include a variety of animal sources, eggs, poultry, seafood, and red meat, in addition to plant-sourced protein foods such as beans, peas, lentils, legumes, nuts, seeds, and soy. Eat fresh, frozen, dried, and canned fruits and vegetables, from beets to strawberries, carrots to apples, and focus on whole grains. We have to avoid highly processed foods. So avoid highly processed, packaged, prepared, ready to eat, or other foods that are salty or sweet, that have chemical additives, unhealthy fats, and refined carbohydrates. avoid sweetened beverages such as soda, fruit drinks, and energy drinks. A reduction in highly processed foods, this approach can change the health trajectory of America. Avoiding added sugars. No amount of added sugars or non-nutritive sweeteners is recommended or considered part of a healthy or nutritious diet. And they call on parents to completely avoid added sugar for children aged 4 and under. Ending the war on healthy fats. Receive bulk of fat from whole food sources such as meats, poultry, eggs, omega-3 rich seafood, nuts, seeds, full-fat dairy, olives, and avocados. When cooking, use most nutrient-dense natural options with essential fatty acids such as olive oil. Heralding whole grains and avoiding refined carbohydrates. Prioritize fiber-rich whole grains and significantly reduce the consumption of highly processed refined carbohydrates such as white bread, ready-to-eat or packaged breakfast options, floral tortillas and crackers, including diets lower in carbohydrates to manage chronic disease. This is science-based and common sense. With certain chronic diseases, healthier outcomes result when following a lower carbohydrate diet. And lastly, they have some recommended servings per day. So vegetables, they're saying 3 servings per day. Fruits, 2 servings per day. Whole grains, 2 to 4 servings per day. Let's see, we got healthy fats, dairy, protein, and protein target 0.54 to 0.73 grams per pound of body weight per day. There's a whole lot more information than just this, but I thought I would share it because we're all busy and we may have missed it. And I have a copy of the new pyramid for all of you, in case you're curious.
Thank you, Mary. I have some work to do on the vegetables.
Oh, yes, yes, I think we all could make
thank
it an improvement.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you.
I've seen this too, so.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. Susie?
Sue Benvenuti, Bassett Road. I have this thing here on the tax relief. The applications came out on February 1st, and it's all of them, the elderly, the veterans, and the rent rebates. I was looking for the tax freeze information. Do you know when that comes out?
I don't know. That's out of the assessor's office. They manage that. So it's out of the assessor's office, so we don't manage that in my
Okay.
office.
No, okay. I
So-
was there today. I'll ask them next time
Yeah.
then, okay. My other question is, okay, I went to the senior center on Tuesday, and parking was horrendous because the plow job was terrible. Bad enough we only have a few spaces, which I have mentioned here before and you know about, but if there's 5 spaces in the front, you shouldn't take away 2 with snow, okay? And because everything was closed, there was a chance to actually plow those decently. And it was those 2 spaces and then 2 spaces here and 2, so there was at least 5 spaces that I counted that you couldn't park a car in. Plus, they didn't even go up to the curb. You know, I clear my driveway, I clear clearly. And I know the people that plow, and they do pretty well. So I called, and at first I got, well, I don't know if the state plows it or the town plows it. I said, well, find out because it's a senior center and it's town residents that come here. As far as who plows in the back, that's not my business. I'm not calling about them, I'm calling about our parking spaces. So today, since I happen to be in the building inspector's office, and then I went over to Public Works, and the woman called from there over too, and asked, yes, the town does plow. I said, well, can they, she's gonna send somebody out to repo it. Today's Thursday. I mean, I did call on Tuesday while they were out on the roads, and I understand there was a lot of snow. Being seniors, it's kind of like, we have a very small hole to be sitting in North Haven. We have a lot of active seniors. And I just think it's only right that we get, as good as possible when it happens. I know there was a problem of snowfall before, which was not as bad of a snowfall, but they took away a whole handicap space. So I don't know if they have to put out markers or what they have to do, but they really have to plow us right the first time. That's all I'm asking. They salt up the wazoo. You can't walk into the building without dropping salt off your feet. Well, I'm sorry, but that's,
Okay.
I'm gonna keep asking for stuff for the senior center, so that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, I think that was it. I can't remember what else I had to say.
All right, we'll talk to Mike Maturo tomorrow. I'll tell you what's happening right now, ladies and gentlemen, is that Public Works, they had, even though, like David said, overall, it really went well. The Public Works, I was out with the trucks, I was out with people during that Saturday, that Sunday, and that Monday. So I saw firsthand what was going on. But today, in the last couple of days, their emphasis has been, because the snow hasn't melted at the intersections, there's mounds. So what the Public Works has been doing the last 2 or 3 days, or the last 2.5 days, is going and trying to knock the piles down to clear the sight lines for traffic, because right now it can be a significant safety hazard. You're coming out of a street you can't see, and you take a right, and somebody comes in this way. So that's what they're tied up with. But we'll talk to Mike tomorrow, see if we can push that stuff.
Oh, yeah,
back.
because they are gonna address it. They did say that, but I'm just saying if they do that the first time, we have nothing. There's nothing, there's no complaints because it's plowed properly. This snowfall, we know, it was a lot. The last one wasn't a lot, but they still managed to take out spaces. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just, I don't think they have to put the markers up. That would be one way, that way know where they plowed to.
So a lot of the coordination on this really is between Paulette and Public Works, okay? So it's not really a Board of Selectmen issue, but because I'm involved with all of it. But really the process should be, if there's an issue in the parking, Senior Center should call Public Works, and they should get a small truck out there and move it out.
Okay.
So you gotta have the communication in the departments, okay? That's the fastest way to try to get something done. Rather than come here once a month to try to.
Oh, no,
right, so-
I've told you, I talked to them on Tuesday.
Okay,
I
very
called
good.
and they wanted to know if I said, I'm a resident of North Haven, go to the senior center. And that's the only reason why I know what's going on here. And then what happened to be there today, so I brought it up again because I know nothing's been done since Tuesday. That's all, it's just a very simple, in my mind, simple. Most plow people set out markers and they plow to the markers. If they did that, it'd be the first time through and done.
All right, we'll coordinate that
So-
with Mike and Bled at the Senior
Okay.
Center, okay? So we'll do
Thanks.
that. Okay, very good. Any other comments? All right, well, hearing none, I guess time to, motion to adjourn.
Wow.
Okay, so,
Nobody has any more comments? We're here all night. Motion to adjourn?
all right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming tonight. We look forward to seeing you at the March meeting. Thank you.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.